the most overrated series or solo movie in human existence, Avatar. I did not watch the first one when it came out, and when it came out, I was in the middle phase of being a kid and a teenager. Um, I never understood the hype around it, and I didn't really care to watch it back in the day. And when I saw the trailer for the second one, I was like, you know what? I might as well go watch the first one. And I didn't really like it, I gotta be honest. I think if I watched the first one when it came out, I think I would have appreciated the special effects a lot more. Not to say that they're bad, I think they hold up actually really good, but we've been spoiled so much. Like, technology just has advanced like fucking crazy. And with all the Marvel movies, like, all movies nowadays, most movies have really good special effects. And I'm not saying that Avatar 2 doesn't, because it does, but that took away the enjoyment of the first one. It wasn't like this mind boggling cinematic experience for me like it was for everyone else. I think I would have a different opinion if I watched it right when it came out, but years and years later, it just feels like another, sci fi movie. On to Avatar 2, The Way of Water. I liked a lot of things about this movie, and there's a lot of things I didn't like. I'm really 50-50 on it right now. I just got out of the theater watching it. 3-hour movie. Some parts you can definitely feel it, but to start off with the positives, man, James Cameron, as much as this story for this movie kind of sucked in my opinion, um, what kept me engaged was the cinematography, how everything looked. I have never seen a movie this gorgeous in my whole life. There's some movies I say that and like I don't think I'm gonna see anything better, but holy fuck, this is hands down the best looking movie I've ever watched, and I have watched a lot of movies. Um, what they used here was Dolby Atmos, or whatever you call it, for the sound. Really like top notch sound quality, fucking really good stuff. The visuals obviously are great, but what James Cameron did differently was the frame rate resolution. And I heard some movie theaters, like, their screens couldn't handle it or something, but thankfully we had no issues at ours. But this movie in 3D, if you want to go see this in the movies, you don't really care for 3D, man. If you're seeing this in the movies, I would just recommend. I'm gonna put my hood up. My hair looks bad. I would recommend going to see it in 3D if you're going to the movies, because this is the best 3D movie I have seen in a very long time. There's not that many 3D movies that impressed me. Spy Kids 3D was pretty cool at the time when we were kids. Doesn't hold up too good, but man, I was blown away at the beginning how much of a difference the 3D made. You really did feel like you're there. Like I said, there's so many movies that just use 3D because you have to pay extra money. Like Black Panther kind of sucked in 3D. This was great. The physics of the water, everything just looked natural. It looked really real, like just so realistic. It was so weird, but I loved it. So back to the frame rate. I'm not going to talk about this too long, but I heard that he put it to 60 or 80 frames per second. And as you know, like the new generation of gaming, like the PS5, the Xbox One, all those run at like 60 frames. And gaming, it suits gaming really good. For movies, it's really weird. I haven't seen all the Hobbit movies, but I heard that had a frame rate bump, and it kind of made like a motion blur. Here, it kind of feels natural, and they pulled it off in a really fantastic way. There is some parts in the movie that it kind of does look like a video game cutscene, just how fast everything's moving, and there's just like that blur, and like characters kind of look animated like they're in a cartoon. But that only happened like once or twice, and I don't think there was any way for them to get around that, so they just left it in the movie. But other than that, the frame rate was fucking fantastic, especially during the fight scenes, which you don't have a lot of. I was expecting a bit more action, but even some of the fight scenes, the frame rate just makes the movie so fucking smooth. It's great. And yeah, like I said, the music, like the score was awesome. I loved it. I loved being in Pandora for a while, and I gotta admit, it kind of wears off fast. Like the first hour, I was sucked in. I was really curious where the story was gonna go. And then the second act kind of just fucked up the movie for me because it is a slog to get through. It was a little bit interesting, like seeing the kids interact with all the different animals on the planet, but it just goes on for so long. It just gets stale after a while. This movie did not need to be 3 hours. I really can nitpick scenes that you can take out, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to jump into the negatives quick. There's not a lot of things I didn't not like. It was just how they did the story. I wasn't expecting a mind-boggling story. I wasn't even expecting a lot of action because like the trailer looked a lot more emotional, and I was all down for that. But when you got characters that are just kind of boring and the writing isn't good, there is a lot. It's so weird. Like there is a lot of emotion in this movie. Like a lot more than I was expecting. But none of it really. There was maybe one or two scenes that I thought they were doing really well, but a lot of it just didn't work for me, especially because the way James Cameron handled like the runtime of these scenes. It's like you're just starting to get invested into an emotional moment, and then it just jumps to the next scene, and it happens way too frequently, and it got on my nerves because I was enjoying those moments, but they were very far in between. Like it felt like 30 seconds and then boom, jump back to something else. And I really think they should have taken more time and put that in and fill that in with the gap that I want them to cut out, and put more emotional stuff in and get a lot of the other stuff out, and just try not to spoil it. I will do a spoiler review, but not today. Just the story was I wouldn't say a huge letdown because I wasn't like super excited for the movie. It was just went in there with an open mind, but like it got really tedious to sit through after a while. This is a 3-hour movie with 2 acts. It's just complete build up, no action, and I don't mind that unless like the payoff is good. And holy fuck, I think the third act of this movie is probably the worst. I think the beginning is fucking great. It sucks you in. The second act is them trying to set up the story, but it just runs at a snail's pace. And then the third act is supposed to be this big battle that really, I liked how small scale it was. I liked that they didn't go too bonkers with it. It was very grounded and like, 1v1 kind of thing. It wasn't too much to take in, but it was so boring to watch because all this build up, and then you get there. I'm not going to say exactly why. I will in the other video because it will spoil a few things. But you get to the third act, like it falls on its fucking face, and I wish they didn't even bother going for like, I don't know, an action third act. I think it would have been a lot more better if it was emotional. And yet again, it is emotional a bit, but I don't look to connect with these characters. I'm just looking for, something that interests me, that like an interest that they have or something like that. Like any like good dialogue. Like that's all I really wanted, and I think it would have grabbed me more. There really wasn't a lot of like badass one-liners. Like when I think of James Cameron, like Titanic, great movie. Terminator, like come on, like the first Terminator is amazing. It's wonderful. I just really felt that he went over his head so much with the fucking special effects that he forgot to write a good story. And that's what I expected from the movie. I knew I was going to an experience, because that's what I think of Avatar. I don't think of it as an actual film. I think of it as like a, experience. Kind of like superhero movies. They're not. Martin Scorsese's kind of right at this point. It's more of an experience because there's nothing original about them. There's no new ideas. And this sucked for me because I thought they were going to do something different with the story. It literally is the first movie all over again. It, like, story-wise, that's what it feels like to me. All in all, I would give this a 6 out of 10. Don't get me wrong. Great. Like, some of the acting was really fucking good. But for the most part, a lot of the characters just didn't work for me. They had good moments, but overall, I couldn't care less about them. I don't know what else to say other than I wasn't anticipating this movie like you guys were since 2009. Like, and I feel bad for the people that didn't like it. I'm happy for you guys that did like it, but I'm kind of happy I didn't jump on the fucking bandwagon and get my hopes up. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Like I said, good special effects, beautiful movie. You can always do that. I know it's not easy, but if you don't have strong characters and like good dialogue, especially in a movie like this where it's supposed to be so epic, like imagine Lord of the Rings if the characters were just boring, which they're not, because the dialogue is so interesting. Imagine if those characters are boring. Lord of the Rings would have not fallen on its face, but they're just known for their memorable characters. When I think of Avatar, I think of all the blue people. I don't think of one specific person. There's no one that really stands out. And when you don't have a good story, you don't have good dialogue, you don't have good characters, kind of bad pacing. For a 3-hour movie, there were some parts that really dragged, like really dragged. But for the most part, I would say it did kind of go by fast. There was really fast pacing at the beginning, and the middle is like really slow, and then the end it picks up again. But I just think James Cameron had his head far up his butt, and I'm kind of disappointed in that because I know he can write a good story, a well-grounded story without being too crazy like a Marvel movie. But he just it really felt like he just said, fuck the dialogue, fuck the story, let's just aim for the visuals, which is nice. But after an hour, it gets kind of stale and boring. That's my thoughts on Avatar 2. Let me know in the comments if you've seen the movie, what you thought of it. If not, I can't really recommend it. It's really hard to recommend to everyone. But if you want to go watch a movie 3 hours, sure, I recommend it. Take a break from YouTube, everyone. Don't be on here too much. It's not good for you. I will talk to you guys in a while.